Hey YouTube, Petey Two Finger here, and I just ran into, it was a guy telling a joke, the world's funniest joke, and it wasn't. As a matter of fact, I've heard it before, a slightly different version of it, but now it's my turn. I found who's that guy? Jimmy Stewart telling a joke, and then there was a video of Buddy Hackett on The Tonight Show. Now, right now, you should just stop this and go and just watch those videos, because there's no way I can do these jokes justice. But Jimmy Stewart's joke goes like this. It's a beautiful morning, and there's a husband and wife enjoying breakfast. And the wife says to the husband, "If I were to die, would you go and get married like right away?" And he said, "Oh, that's a terrible, terrible thing. Let's not even think about that. It's a beautiful day. We're having breakfast." So he says, "Just forget about that, okay?" So they're eating their breakfast, and she doesn't forget about it. She brings it up later that night. She says, "If I were to pass away suddenly, would you get married right away?" And so the guy knows that she's never going to let this go unless he answers. So he says, yeah, I would. And she says, "Would you sell the house?" And he stops and he thinks and he says, "I don't think I would." "Why would I sell the house?" She says, how about our bed? Would you get rid of our bed?" And he says, I don't think so. I think I would keep the bed." And she says, that's interesting now, but you wouldn't let her near my golf clubs, would you? And he says, "No, she's left-handed." So now I'm going to move on and ruin Buddy Hackett's jokes. There's a guy driving. He's doing about 35 miles an hour in his car. He's driving along there, not really paying attention. All of a sudden, he notices something out of the side of his eye, and it's chicken. And the chicken's running. It's keeping up with his car. He's doing like 35, so he steps on it a little more. He's looking at this chicken. He's looking at his speedometer, so he gets it up to like 40. And sure enough, the chicken catches up to him. So he keeps speeding up a little more. Pretty soon, he's doing 55, and the chicken's leaning into it, keeping right up with him, right next to his door. And all of a sudden, the chicken takes off even faster and cuts him off and runs into an alley. So the guy cuts a hard right, pulls into the alley, and there's a farmer standing there. And farmer says, "What are you doing driving so fast?" And he says, "Well, I was going along, and there was a chicken, and it was doing 35 miles an hour. I couldn't help but notice this chicken. It was keeping up with me till I was doing 55 miles an hour. And the reason was the chicken had 3 legs." And the farmer says, "Oh, I know all about that. I breed these chickens for 3 legs." And he says, "Well, why would you want to do that?" He said, "Well, you're going to have dinner. Maybe your wife wants a drumstick. Maybe you want a drumstick. And, maybe you have a guest over and he wants a drumstick." And he says, "That's really interesting. How do they taste?" And the farmer says, "I don't know. We never caught one." Oh, Buddy Hackett is one of the funniest men alive. Buddy Hackett, Don Rickles, they don't make them like they used to. So in this theme of animal stories, farmer jokes, he tells the one about the woman at the farm, and she's looking at this cow, and she says to the farmer, "How come that cow doesn't have any horns?" And the farmer says, "Well, that's a lot of reasons that a cow doesn't have horns. Some breeds, like the Angus, don't have any horns. Some cows, they're born with horns, but eventually they get a little tired of us milking them, and those horns can be persnickety. So we actually remove the horns, but it's no pain to the animal. And he said, some calves, when they're born, we decide if we don't want them to have horns, we'll apply 3 drops of acid. And it will grow up and it won't have horns. But the reason that cow doesn't have any horns is because it's a horse. Oh. So I hope you're enjoying these, but I would encourage you to check out Buddy Hackett on The Tonight Show telling these jokes. This next one, I'm not going to be able to tell it. You should really watch Buddy Hackett deliver this joke. There's a duck hunter out, and he's been hunting ducks, and finally he gets one. Bang! And the duck comes down, and it hits the roof of the barn, and falls into the farmer's, it's on the farmer's property. So he comes up, and he's looking around, he doesn't see anybody, climbs the fence, and he's running over there to grab the duck, and right when he gets to it, the farmer comes out of the barn and says, what do you think you're doing? And he says, well, I'm getting my duck. And he said, that's not your duck. The duck fell, it hit my barn, it's my duck. And the hunter looks to him and says, no, I've been hunting for 2 days. And, I'm from the city, you got to give me a break. That was my duck. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, we can settle this the country way, the farmer's way of settling it. And the city slicker looks at him and says, what's that? He says, well, that's where I'm going to kick you in the groin, and then it's going to be your turn. You get to kick me in the groin. And we go back and forth until whoever says uncle, and then the other guy gets to keep the duck. So the guy's thinking for a minute, and he says, you know what? I've got to go through with this. I can't return empty-handed to my wife. So farmer says, fine, I'm going to go first. So he lines up, gives it everything he has, kicks this guy as hard as he can. The guy goes down. He's speaking in tongues, rolling around on the ground, turning purple. It's like he's going to have a heart attack. Howling at going around like Curly from the Three Stooges, knocking everything over. A half hour later of this, the guy gets up and he says, okay, it's your turn. And the farmer says, you can have the duck. Oh my goodness.